Testament lesson comes from Revelations 21, 1 through 6. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. He will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples. God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain any more, for the former things have passed away." Then the one seated on the throne said, "Look, I am making all things new." He also said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "All is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will freely give water from the life-giving spring." The word of God for the people of God.
Well, today's Revelation passage is the one, I think I've always read that at funerals and memorial services. It's like the one we want to read, and we usually read it last. We start off with the 23rd Psalm. Everyone loves that, and it says so much. Then we often have the Ecclesiastes passage, and everyone loves that because it's in everything. There's a season. And then we talk about John saying that I am the way, the truth, and the life. And that tells us where we are grounded. And then we talk about a new Jerusalem comes down to earth. And it's a beautiful passage about an end of the world. Like I said to the kids, we're talking about the end of the old world in our lives. There may well be an end of the world at the end, but we're talking about something else here. We're talking about the change that happened when Jesus went to the cross and he died and death died with him. When that becomes a reality in our lives, then we know the resurrection, we know Easter, and we don't just have one day of hunting eggs. We have 6 weeks of Easter, and then we have Ascension Sunday, and then we have Pentecost, the birthday of the church. We're on the 5th Sunday of Easter right now. And so we spend time on these Sundays talking about not just the Easter moment, but what does that mean? What does it mean that death is over for us? There's a great world out there that thinks that death is still the power that controls everything. Look at those people from ISIS with their guns riding in the back of the truck. Look at those premiers and presidents and dictators using the fear and the promise and the actuality of death to get their way. And yet the power of death is done. It's a new world. It's a beautiful world, and we don't even have words for it. We have to keep thinking about what it might be. How do you describe, again, the Grand Canyon? How do you describe it? Well, it's beautiful. Not just beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, all those apocalyptic, post-apocalypse movies have everything in kind of a gray tone, a lot of nitty-gritty, dusty stuff going on. This is beauty upon beauty. New Jerusalem comes into earth, this new reality, adorned like a bride for her groom. Now, there's nothing more beautiful in our world. Oh, the groomsmen look handsome in their tuxedos, and the bridesmaids look marvelous in their gowns. But then the music changes and everyone stands up, and here comes the bride, and she is pure and glowing with love. That's what it means. That this new world enters our life into a new relationship, just like a bride and a groom. They're entering into a new life, a new love, a new reality. And God is in the process of making all things new. There's a new relationship. God isn't just somebody you say words to, like OMG, or some of the words we use when we hit our thumb with a hammer. Oh, God is our God, and we are in that relationship. Death is no more. To stand here and know perfectly well that people die, and yet to proclaim that death is no more. That is saying God is more than anything in this world. Even death. Death is no more. There is no more mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. All these things are still real, and yet they no longer control us. We are not controlled by these things of this world. Well, we try not to be. As we move into the kingdom, it gets to be more exactly like that. You know, some people will say you don't care. You see disasters on TV and you see people being wasted and all the horrors that come along with that. And in some ways, yes, I feel sorry for those families. I would not want to be in those families. And if I were nearby those families, I would be helping those families. But to see it on the TV, that's the old world. And those are the birth pangs of the new world. It's a different way of seeing the world. God is in charge. And God says, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. People ask me, how do you know the resurrection is real? And I say, I don't know if it's real, but I do know it's true. True is too big to fit in facts. The truth of the resurrection is that Christ has gone before us and is drawing us into, calling us into, sometimes kicking us into a new relationship and a new life. And it's our job to understand and to learn that new life. It's a new life where we realize God says it is finished. The whole thing is complete. We just haven't got to the end yet. It's finished. Just like on the end of the sixth day, God says, it's done. And now God can say again, as God said on the sixth day, He looked at the world and He said, it is very good. Do you believe that? Do you believe the world is very good? Well, we can make a long list of things that aren't so good. But God's world and God's new creation is very good. And as we enter into that, move into it, progress into it, we discover it is. It is good news to know Christ. Good news. Last week on the sermon notes, somebody wrote down, struggle builds endurance, endurance builds character, character builds hope, and hope never fails. And then puts, hope never fails? Question mark. Good question. Because this world will tell you that there's a good chance that everything you're hoping for won't come true. I mean, I was hoping for good grades in grade school, and it didn't come true. Because I was lazy. I hope for a lot of things, and they don't happen. But that's not the point. That's living in the old world where you think cause and effect gets you to everything. But the hope that Christ is talking about never fails. And I can tell you this because I've had something sometimes in my life, one in particular, where all of the hope disappeared. There was nothing in this world I could hope for. And that's when hope arose out of God alone. There's no word for it. It's just a knowledge. It's a knowledge that it's all right. It will be okay. Don't know how. Don't know why. Know why. But it will happen. And that hope never fails. Because God says it is finished. I am the Alpha and the Omega. The beginning and the end. I've used this in a lot of funeral eulogies, but bear with me. The weatherman has two things he can say that are absolutely true. Everything else is a big guess. But he gets up there and he is proud to say what time the sun will rise and what time the sun will set. And these are trustworthy and true. We know these will be true. And everything in between is just weather. Just weather. And we know from experience and memory that every life begins at a particular day at a particular time. And we also know that every life ends on a particular day at a particular time. Even Jesus' life ended before the resurrection. Everything in between is just weather. Whether you're going to live in the world or you're going to live in God's love and hope. And then God says, and God is the Alpha, the beginning. There's nothing in front of it except God. And God is the end, the Omega, and there's nothing beyond that except God. And everything is in between. All held in God's hand. God's way. God puts us in the midst of this great improv drama, and God knows how it's going to turn out, but we have free will all the way along. That's a paradox. It's like God knows because God's got the CD of the whole movie in his hands. And it works out all right because God is the one doing this. That's what Easter means to me. It means knowing we live in between.